Welcome to the Shunned podcast, where we expose religions that use shunning as a tool to control people. Today I've got something special for you. I was privileged to attend the Midwest Apostafest up near Indianapolis, Indiana, on August the 4th. And in doing so, my original idea was to invite people to do some mini interviews with me. And those were going to be turned into kind of a bonus for the episode that I just released earlier this month when I released Sydney's interview, because Sydney was actually there at the Apostafest for the first time. In fact, this was just my second. But because I got such great interviews from people and because there was so much there, I decided to go ahead and create another separate episode just for the interviews that I did at the Midwest Apostafest 2018. So as you listen, you'll be hearing people's stories in their own voice, and you'll also be hearing, I've got a special in there, a little scary story by a little girl named Jocelyn. She wanted to share as well. I think we can agree that we all live some pretty scary stories. She also created some quote music by clapping her hands that she really was excited about. So I've decided to kind of cut that down and use that as the transition between stories. So I hope you enjoy this. It's a little bit different than the norm. It's not just one story, but this is a great chance to get a glimpse into the people that might be present at an Apostafest. All right. So what's your name?
It's Mary Hernandez.
All right, Mary. So how many years were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
I was fourth generation, born in for 25 years, and that was until 1990. And I left, and I've been out since then, so 28 years this December I've been out.
Wow, fourth generation too. That's a big thing to have to leave that. What was it that woke you up?
I didn't wake up right away. I still kind of had some of the, and Desert Storm was going on when I left, and so I had the fear when it was over, Armageddon, all that stuff. But I just looked at what's going on and then found out, started doing a little research, and the amount of years that they were told this is going to happen. I mean, I was 10 in 75, I survived 75. Right. So you look at that, and then I found out about Beth Sarim, the house that's in California.
Yes,
like,
the
what
swanky house.
Oh, yeah, swanky, and the limo, the Cadillacs, and all that kind of stuff that was going on. And you just kind of go, wait a second, this isn't... It's not right. It's not,
not what it was supposed to be.
My grandfather was at Cedar Point with the Millions Now Living Will Never Die.
Really?
And he died in 82.
Wow.
So, yeah, you can kind of see.
It always intrigued me that they used to put up billboards of all those, and they say Millions Now Living Will Never Die, and all of the artists' portrayals, all the people that they based that off of, they're all dead.
All dead.
Yeah. So then, what do you like about your new life?
The freedom. I can go to whatever movies I want, read whatever books I want, associate with whoever I want to. You're not automatically bad because you're gay or because you're not a Jehovah's Witness.
Right.
It's you look more at the person than these labels that, and you can't do that, that's bad, that's, and, I can read Harry Potter, yay!
Well, you'll get demons if you do that, but that's okay.
That's okay.
So then why'd you come today to the Apostafest? What drew you here?
I like the association. I know that's one of those things. I like being able to... We know each other's stories somewhat growing up. I mean, it's people that know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
When you don't get that from... And I was supposed to be bringing a couple of new ones. That didn't work out. But hopefully next year I will have a couple of younger new ones that bring, and because they need that.
Oh, yeah.
Because we lose the family, we lose the friends. We don't have that, the sense of belonging, the people that are about the same as you.
Right.
So
and your average person that you talk to, they don't understand.
They don't
understand. They want to, they mean well, but they just can't.
I have very understanding high school friends that we reconnected, and, they had questions, and they asked them, and I answered them, and they really helped me out because they're still in the small hometown that I grew up in, and so if something happens to my mother, I somehow find out about it.
Oh, nice.
My sister does keep my,
I've got
what
people
it
on
says,
the end,
but,
too.
But it was really funny that, before my sister told me, I already knew our mother broke her hip a few years ago.
Gotcha.
Because of those connections. So
All right, so I think you're the long distance of the day. How long did you drive to get here?
I am from Central Florida, and my GPS says 14 hours, but of course that's no stops.
No.
And you can't do that.
And it never takes...
Right. There's going to be some kind of incident that slows you down somewhere.
Or road traffic.
So I leave, I usually spend the night in Valdosta on the way up, and then stop in Atlanta and then on up. And tomorrow I'll get up about 5 or 6 in the morning and make the straight haul, and hopefully I'll be home before 10 or 11.
Woo! That's a haul.
That's a haul. And we're to work Monday.
Is there any... don't we all? Is there anything that you would like to say? Just in general, anything that you have to say? Anything you'd like to say about Apostafest or Witnesses? Or
have the opportunity to come to one, if you have the opportunity and you're an XJ-Dub, meet up with other XJ-Dubs. Don't stay in your little bubble. And, we help each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a community.
Helps. It's a community, and it's really helpful to meet other ones. And, I've traveled to England and Wales now so I can meet up with other XJ-Dubs.
Oh, that's amazing. So, wow, nice.
I am a world traveler.
Yeah, you got that.
And it's that sense of belonging. You meet people for the first time, but it's like you knew each other forever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you for answering the questions.
You're
beautiful.
welcome.
Appreciate it. So, what's your name?
Sharon Tyson.
All right. And how many years were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
33.
And how long have you been out?
10 years.
Wow, that's a good amount of time. What was it that woke you up ultimately? Was there one event or anything that happened that... It doesn't even have to be an event, but was there even something that...
Yes.
Kind of opened your eyes?
2 things.
Okay.
After I was disfellowshipped, my children were 7, 9, 11, and 13. Mm-hmm. And I had called my 2 oldest daughters were getting very depressed. Mm-hmm. And so my oldest daughter was talking suicidal. And so she had never done that before. And, and I didn't know who to reach out to. So I'd only been out like 2 weeks.
Right.
So I called one of the elders on the judicial committee and I said, hey, the girls are really depressed. Could you please call them suicidal? Is that her name? And so, the elder said to me verbatim, look, Sharon, the kids live with you now, so it's your responsibility to care for them spiritually. And I said, I was just floored.
Yeah, it was so callous.
I said, wait a second. I said, I'm not talking about spiritually here. I'm talking about emotionally.
Right.
And he said, I can't help you.
It's all the same to them.
And I said, no, wait. I said, if you were my friend, I mean, I'm pleading with him at this point. I said, if you were my friend and you were depressed, I would say, hey, you want to go get a cup of coffee? You want to go out to, you want to come to the meeting? I'll pick you up. So at that point, I still thought it was the truth. Mm-hmm. I still thought they had the only true religion at that point. But I made up my mind, any person that turns their back on children is not a church for me.
Fair enough.
And the second thing was about a month later, I was at the library. I was in the medical field, and I was there with a client of mine. She wanted to read about the Amish. And I was standing there waiting, and I saw the name Jehovah's Witnesses, and this is the cult section of the library. Oh. And people had told me Jehovah's Witnesses are not even in the religious section of the public library. They're in the cult section. I didn't believe it, and I was too afraid to look.
Yeah.
So I saw the name Jehovah's Witnesses, and I saw cults and sects, and I was like, oh my God. So I got curious. I was afraid to touch the book. I was afraid to pick it up, afraid to read what was in it.
Yeah.
I opened it up, and I saw this checklist of religious signs that you're in a cult.
Right.
And I was just like in my mind reading them. I'm like, check, 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 check.
Right.
So that was the turning point for me.
Gotcha. No, that makes total sense. So then what do you like about your new life? Your life since then? You like being free or the ability to... What's good in your life?
Not to be overly dramatic about this, but what's good in my life is that my children all survived trying to commit suicide. And my daughters are all 3 in the medical field. My son although he's still facing a lot of emotional challenges with post-traumatic stress disorder and addiction, he still he recently made the statement, "Mom, I want to be like you, and someday I want to be a motivational speaker." He said, "I want to go back and I want to help the teens that come out of the cults that turn to drugs and alcohol."
That's beautiful. I mean, he's got a good goal there to work toward, and it shows that he can see the difference, and what the cult brings to people.
So that's my happiness.
All right. Well, why'd you come today? What do you like about Apostafest?
Well, I have been wanting to attend an Apostafest for the past 10 years, ever since I left. And this was my first golden opportunity. It was like my Willy Wonka golden ticket.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I was like, I had the opportunity, and so I came and I did some protesting beforehand and in Fountain Square in Cincinnati with another activist that goes by the name of The Hooligan.
All right.
And so, yeah, I got to meet Jim Moon for the first time, which was totally exhilarating.
Yes.
And some others, and yeah.
You never know who you'll meet in Apostafest.
And Ethan Hatcher with his cool hat.
So is there anything... Oh, no, let me ask you, how long did you drive to get here? How long was the trip for you?
4.5 hours,
Wow.
one way.
Nice. And is there anything that you'd like to say? If you just had anything that you could say about Apostafest, about cults, Jehovah's Witnesses, your life, anything, is there any, if you could have anything that you think would be kind of poignant to say?
Yes. I think that all people that are concerned, that have come out of high control groups and that have come out of cults, really need to join together and come up with a law that will stop, that will help protect innocent people from trying to end their lives. The shunning that happens, it doesn't, shunning is just like this vast term. And there's so much that is, it's a blanket term, and there's so much underneath of that, like homelessness.
Right.
Homelessness, poverty, So, if we want to conquer homelessness among a majority, that would be a good place to start.
All right, so what's your name?
My name is Alex Longoria.
All right, Alex. So then how many years were you a witness?
I was actually born in. I was third generation, and I stayed in until I was 21.
Wow, that's tough to leave when you got that many generations behind you. How long have you been out?
I've been out for 11 years.
That's
a little bit over.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What was it that woke you up? Was there something that kind of, a moment or something that you came to realize?
So a lot of people right now at this Apostafest are from my congregation, and we all experienced a very traumatic loss. And so at the time, we all were suffering together, and we all saw each other suffering in different ways. And that's what woke me up.
Wow. Yeah, sometimes it's just a traumatic event, and it makes you re-examine things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you like about your new life? Now you're out, you're free. What's good?
I like that I know who people can be, and I know that people can have a moral compass. And recently I've been choosing people who have just a natural built moral compass.
Yeah, you don't need to be a witness to have that, do you?
You don't need to be a witness to have that, and that's probably the most important thing that anyone can acquire.
Right, absolutely. Is there anything that you'd like to say? If you had a chance to say something to a couple thousand people, is there anything that you want to say? About witnesses, about how much you like Apostafest, about being free. Any wisdom you want to drop on anybody?
No one should feel alone. We're out there for you. Find someone who can answer your questions.
Oh, yeah. That's a good thing. Everybody needs that. Thanks a lot, man. All right. So then what's your name?
Nathan Tagg.
All right, Nathan. So I know that you have a different perspective, and why is that?
Well, I was never a JW. I was actually raised Protestant, and I stopped going to church about 10 years ago, just because of my own reasons and issues.
Yeah. Everybody's got their thing.
Right.
So what brings a lapsed Protestant of sorts? What brings a lapsed Protestant to a gathering of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, it all started, I was just, before the Apostafest ever became a thing, I was friends with the host, Ethan. We met in astronomy class in college, and just kind of bonded instantly because we're both kind of sarcastic wise asses, and we're both too smart for our own good, and just enjoyed making fun of the teacher behind his back because he was a pompous ass. But we just started hanging out. That was in around 2011. We just started hanging out, and it just gradually spun out. And a few years ago, he came to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm having a gathering of ex-JWs, and I know that you've not ever been a JW, but you are my friend, and you're welcome to come." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So part of it's personal because I'm friends with him, but also part of it's just I consider myself something of an amateur anthropologist. I like studying subcultures and different belief systems and things like that. And the Jehovah's Witnesses certainly are a subculture. They qualify as that. So it's interesting to get a perspective on a group of people who are no longer practicing and finding out why they're not and what's up and why they're happy to be here.
So what have you found then? What have you found in your studies?
Well, just talking to him, but it's also been confirmed, dozens of times just in the other people that I've met through these types of functions that they were all feeling controlled, and they were all feeling isolated, and they were all feeling confused and angry and hurt about all the stuff that was thrust on them either by choices that they didn't fully understand or, by an organization they were born into.
Right.
And apparently, it makes sense. Once you leave, you feel even more isolated because a lot of these people felt like they were the only ones that were doing it. And then people like Ethan, other people who are big in the community who have made statements and have a strong presence online and make videos and things like that. I think they all started to find a community outside of that. And I think it's really positive and life affirming. So I'm happy to be here and see people be able to kind of shed their shells and grow as people.
I love that. It's so awesome to get an outsider's perspective. That's always, a big thing.
Of course.
I don't know how much you know specifically about the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses and the beliefs. Obviously, you've seen what you've seen through your friends and such. What do you see Jehovah's Witnesses as? Jehovah's Witnesses want to portray themselves as just another Christian religion.
Sure.
Is that how you see it, or do you see it as more than that?
Well, before I met Ethan, what I thought about Jehovah's Witnesses was kind of just, I think, what the average person who doesn't know a lot thinks about them. I mean, we had people visiting our house that did the door-to-door, and we actually had a family of Jehovah's Witnesses that lived across the street from us, and my mom used to tell me a little bit about them. Never, in a harsh, condescending way, she never ever painted them as bad people. She was just like, they don't celebrate birthdays, they don't celebrate holidays. And I said, why is that? And she's like, I don't really know. I just know that that's along the lines of what they do. So that's kind of what I knew growing up. But then as I met Ethan and I talked with Ethan and I said, we've had multiple conversations. I've asked him some deep probing questions about the nature of what it is. And he's really given me kind of a lot of eye-opening information about the kinds of experiences that people have and the nature of the organization and kind of what Watchtower Corporation does. On the outside, you wouldn't really know that to look to an outsider who is not raised Jehovah's Witnesses. As a Jehovah's Witness, they seem pretty normal, other than the fact that they seem to follow this peculiar brand of Christianity, which you don't really know anything
harmless,
about.
if nothing else.
It's seemingly harmless. To
right.
the outside world, to me and to everyone I know, it certainly seemed mostly harmless. Yeah, they're a little weird, like those kooky Mormons or whatever. But for the most part, whatever. Right. It's not. But then as I got to know Ethan more, and I got to know his journey more, and I got to know what he dealt with, and his mother, and just different things like that, that he told me all about. You really start to learn that, like a lot of organizations, not necessarily religious, but governments and businesses and various organizations in the world, there is and can be a sinister side to things.
Sure, it's a human thing.
It's a human thing. I think and I don't think that was invented by the Jehovah's Witnesses. No. I don't think it originated with them. I think anytime that organizations gather that are led by people who we are all fallible and we all make mistakes and we're all guilty of envy and greed and arrogance, I think,
and power dynamics
of social situations. I think that people can desire to bend the will of others to their own and perpetuate a belief system of whatever. I don't hate Jehovah's Witnesses. I think they're just deep down. I think everybody's a person, and I think that we all attach ourselves to whatever coattail we think is gonna ultimately save us.
Oh, of course.
Everybody's reaching for a rope of some kind that is their lifeline.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of people, you can't really say this about the people that are born into it because they didn't really have a choice, but I think the people that gravitate towards it, I think that that's just another lifeline that they're reaching for. And for some people, they make that kind of thing work, and it doesn't cause them to be bad people, and it doesn't cause them to be ferocious predators. Other people,
it brings it out.
Like religion is like money, is like a gun, is like a webcam, is like alcohol, is like anything. It is anything that has the potential to give a person power or leverage.
Right.
It doesn't change their personality. It brings out their personality and turns the volume up. So. Yeah.
No, man, I think that's beautiful. That's a great observation, not just about witnesses, but it's just humanity.
It's the nature of people.
It's human nature.
What we see exhibited by witnesses, especially the ones that go really bad and that are negative, it's the same thing, in the Catholic Church. Not all Catholics are bad. Not all Catholics are pedophiles, but those are the ones that make the news.
Right.
Same with any religion, same with any government, same with any business. There's always going to be people who are in it to live selfishly off of the blood of other people, and then there are those who are there to do something productive.
Right.
And I don't think that's I don't think that any organization is inherently necessarily good or evil. I think it's the people that are a part of it and what they choose to do with the information and knowledge that they get because of it.
Sure. No, that's great. So I just want to reiterate one thing you said. How do you feel about Jehovah's Witnesses? You don't hate them, right?
No, I don't hate them at all. I don't think I would say that most of the people that I know that I hang out with, I don't think that there's any level of hate, whether you're an apostate or whether you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness or whether you're a current Jehovah's Witness. I just think that if you are a current Jehovah's Witness and this is something that has a positive effect on your life, then great, because we all need something like that. But I think that if there are people who are Jehovah's Witnesses that maybe feel like this isn't as positive an experience as they've been led to believe, that you might be onto something, and you should definitely search that out.
Yeah, check that out.
Don't stamp out that nugget.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like expressing that nugget, nobody would blame you for being afraid or uncertain, but don't stamp it out. Let it stew in your mind, because there's probably a reason that you're thinking that way. So.
Right, and so Alex is right here. So let me ask you, Alex, do you hate Jehovah's Witnesses?
Interesting question.
That is a very interesting question.
Do you hate Jehovah's Witnesses?
It's a direct question.
It took a long time for me not to. I'm grateful for the moral compass that I do have.
Right, but ultimately the people in it aren't necessarily all hateable people, are they?
No, not by any means. No.
I think why I'm asking that, I don't hate Jehovah's Witnesses. I hate the organization. Yes, I hate the organization. I hate the culture that it creates. I hate that. But the people are just people, and I think that one of the things that the reason that I asked you and I like Nathan saying that is that there's a stigma among Jehovah's Witnesses that apostates, and we're at an Apostafest, so we're all apostates here.
We're all worldly sinners.
Yeah, we're all just a bunch of sinners. So, the stigma is that apostates hate Jehovah's Witnesses. We don't hate Jehovah's Witnesses. Right. It's hurt, not hate. That's what it is. We're hurt. We've all been hurt by it. We don't hate them.
I think that maybe some of the elders in the organization would love it if apostates did hate Jehovah's Witnesses.
Absolutely.
Because
then they could have a final active opinion.
Well, it's not just that.
Yeah,
it's
could justify themselves.
Being able to foster a wedge between people of any kind, especially in people who already belong to an existing community.
Right.
Anything that they can do to drive a wedge between people who already have an existing relationship, that's one more layer of power. And unfortunately, just as many maybe good people that are in the organization, there are just as many misguided people who are absolutely in it for their own gains or who are in it to hurt people. And I think those are the kind of people that would like to drive a wedge between like apostates and current.
It's all us versus them. And
that's something that I hear is fostered because Ethan talks all the time. The Jehovah's Witnesses are taught and told to shun the apostates you've now been affected by the devil or you're now affected by the world or you've become evil somehow. So I think it works both ways.
Hail Satan.
Hail
Thanks,
Satan.
man.
Hail Satan.
All right. So what's your name?
My name is Derrick Mathew, Cincinnati, Ohio.
All right, Derrick. So how many years were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
I started in the 1980s when I come in. I was at the age of 2.
All right.
So I was born into it, and then I left 1999. I was 21 or 20.
All right, so 82 to 99. So you're talking about like 17 years.
Yes.
All right, cool. So how long have you been out?
Well, I've been out since 1999, but I woke up about 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago.
Yes.
That's cool. And I think that's a good example because not everybody that leaves is awake.
Right.
It takes time to work your way through all the mental stuff that they put on us. What was it? So when you did wake up, what was it that woke you up? What was kind of like that first thing that kind of got to you?
First was their disfellowshipping policy.
Gotcha.
Then the next was, because I had a brother, he was disfellowshipped and he took his own life. He was one of Watchtower's suicide victims. He left, and I did not agree with their disfellowshipping policy.
Did he committed suicide because of the shunning?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
And now, and back then when I left, there was not a lot of people in. Right. I mean, there was not a lot of knowledge out there like there is now.
Right.
Now you have the internet, but back then...
Yeah, it was harder to come by, wasn't it?
Yes. And then another thing I disagreed with is I would see a lot of inconsistency. So I remember the official thing that got me out was I was listening to the 6 Screens at the Watchtower with Rick Farron.
Yep.
Because who's helped me through my journey is Rick Farron. I talked to Helen Ortega. She's passed away since then.
Okay.
And there was Joan Setnar. I talked to them. They kept saying, go to a good Bible-believing church. So I took their advice, and I go to a non-denominational church. But the scriptures that the girls were on at the time, Sheila and Trudy, they were the twins that was on the 6 Screens at the Watchtower. I just kept hearing the scriptures about Jesus, and I would read the Bible for the Bible instead of through Watchtower eyes.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a lot different.
Very freeing and different, yes.
All right, well, what do you like about your new life? This free life that you have now. What do you like about it?
My newfound friends. There's freedom in knowing Christ. I know the real Christ, the real gospel.
Right. So, what drew you to come today?
Well, another friend of mine, Miss Sharon Tyson, she was coming up here, and I saw that where she had posted that, and I said, well, I'd like to come with you. Is it all right? And she said yes, because I've been wanting to meet
that's awesome.
People in my current situation for a long time.
That's awesome. So you both got to come. That's great.
Now we're putting names and faces. Yes.
Yeah. So I think I asked her, said it took about 4.5 hours to get here, or something like that.
2.5. She probably.
She drove farther to pick you. She picked you up and then came, right?
Yeah.
So how far for you?
2.5 hours.
2.5. All right. And is there anything you'd like to say? If you could say anything right now, what would you like to say?
Thanks to Ethan and all you amazing, wonderful people that I'm glad to meet, and I just hope other people will see this and they begin to wake up too, and they begin to know.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.
So, okay, now how's it go?
First of all, there was 2 people on a stick. Then they heard a noise.
Okay. Oof.
Then there was a crack from a stick, like where's the stick? Like this one, it was a bigger noise, like that.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Then there was a terrible monster.
Oh my goodness.
Huge. Then it got the two people, and when no one would go past the stick that was broken.
Well, broken sticks are scary.
Yep. So that was how it is.
Nice. I appreciate that.
So did you get it all?
Now, wait a minute. What was your name?
Jocelyn.
Jocelyn. Okay. Yep, I got it. All right, so now we have one of the hosts of Apostafest. And what's your name?
Brandi.
All right, Brandi. So how many years were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, from 1985 to 2006, so that's 21 years.
21 years?
Yep.
All right. And how long have you been out? So you said since 2006.
So I guess officially 12 years.
12 years, wow. What was it that woke you up, that got you out?
Well, I started the wake-up process when I was about 18. I didn't want my co-workers to die at Armageddon. It was just a genuine feeling that I had.
Yeah.
It's the first time, I got gotten close to somebody who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, and I didn't want them to die, but of course I got scared into losing the whole entire, world that you have.
Right.
So I hung on for a while, and then my first husband was a study.
Okay.
And he took his life in 2005. And at that point, I'd kind of worked my way, not out, just awake a lot.
Yeah.
And when he died, no one was there. And it just left me ripe for the opportunity to wake up, because I had, we have that survival instinct.
Sure.
So I turned to people who would talk to me, and then I just finally left. And that is the moment I said I'm never going back, was the same time I realized that I could look elsewhere.
Yeah, just the freedom to be able to explore other things.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you like about your new life? Being free. What is it? Is there something that you really enjoy about it?
Well, life right now is beautiful.
Yeah.
And and that's it. I mean, because, we lived for paradise.
Right.
And we just...
in the future. It was always going to be... It's coming down the road somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And I have found that the life right now is just as pretty as any paradise I ever imagined. And that's not possible. It wasn't, possible as a Jehovah's Witness. It took a lot of healing and a lot of bad decisions. But I finally feel like I'm in control, and just life is beautiful. That's it.
That's awesome. So now I've been asking everybody else, why did they come to this? Why do you come to an Apostafest? You have no choice. This is your event. Why is it that you host Apostafest? Why do you do this every year?
Well, I was alone, just like the majority of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, honestly, for a long time.
Yeah.
And I actually tend to forget what it's like to not have people who know the lingo or who understand without explanation.
Right.
Because I am married to another ex-Jehovah's Witness. But the reason I do the Apostafest is because I met him here. And the experience, even if I hadn't gotten married to him and been able to be the hostess, it made... to connect with people was so powerful, and I was changed.
Yeah.
And I would like to do that for people, and it's such a simple gesture that why not?
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. So many good things I'm sure have happened from it. I mean, You got married.
Yeah. My whole life kind of became amazing.
That's awesome. So is there anything that you would like to say? If you had just one thing you could say just in general, whether it's about, Apostafest or Jehovah's Witnesses or just life, if you wanted to throw out some wisdom, what would you say?
Just live your life. Don't settle for anything that anything more than your own happiness.
Yeah.
Realize that you are the one who is in control of it, and when you can find a way to figure that out, then you're very powerful, and you can find peace and happiness.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's your name?
Darren Harper.
All right, Darren, so how many years were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, I guess it depends on where you mark it. Is it at birth, or I was baptized at 14?
So you were born into it then?
Basically,
okay.
yes.
And then how old were you when you left?
I'm going to have to think about that one. I was 31.
31. All right. So then how many years have you been out? Telling your age now.
Well, I just turned 50.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Very cool. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
What was it that woke you up? What was it that kind of...
It was a gradual awakening.
Yeah.
The first, there was just a feeling that something's just not right.
Yeah.
And then I started learning, even though I had been raised in the truth. Quote unquote, registered trademark, all rights reserved, Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York Incorporated, all rights reserved, restricted and otherwise stomped upon. The first thing that started questioning me was when I was at Bethel and had been assigned the Bible reading in Daniel, and I went to find out about what were these days that the angel was telling Daniel in the was prophetic,
the vision.
Exactly, and the 1,280 days and the 1,558 days, and so this was in 1989, and I was trying to find the most recent commentation on this part, and I had to go back to our Incoming World Government God's Kingdom book, which was like more than almost 20 years.
I was saying, I've never even heard of that.
Almost 20 years old at this point. That was the most recent comment they had about it. And it was some obscure thing about where they were taking those days as literal.
Right.
Days mentioned in a prophecy were taken as literal. And no one could explain to me why they were considered literal days when they were in a prophecy.
Okay.
Because, as we all know, days in a prophecy, a day for a year, a day for a year, right? Okay. So, and no one could explain that to me. So that was kind of the first niggling doubt that I can remember.
Yeah.
Being planted. Then, after I got married, my wife wanted me to grow a beard. Okay. And so we were trying to figure out, why is that not permitted? What's the deal about this? And we were given some lame excuse about how, doctors and lawyers and professional people don't do that. So I went in the phone book, and I went to the local body of elders with the phone book. I said, look, let's look up lawyers. Let's see how many lawyers have a beard.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, let's see how many doctors have a beard.
Right. And since when did we base our lives off the world?
Exactly.
As Jehovah's Witnesses.
Now, I have since come to find out the whole reason was because Rutherford hated the beards that were kind of grown in protest that identified as Russell supporters, even though they were still and so that's when
one way to separate people.
He outlawed beards. Said you can't do that.
You're either for him or against him, and your facial hair apparently shows.
And that's how. And so anyway. Just a number of things just were not sitting well with me, and even though I was married, and that was wonderful when it first started, but after the birth of our first daughter, my wife lost all interest in sex. And that's really difficult. That's not what I got married for. That's not what I got married for.
Right. And you're in a religion that's not going to allow anything.
No. I was being very long-suffering with the situation up until I was an Orkin pest control inspector and went on a Orkin sales pest control inspector. Okay. So I went on a sale and treatment of a home where there was a young lady who was very beautiful and very interested in me, and
it was the voice, wasn't it?
I was really it could have been, but I was so proud of myself. I was envisioning myself being Joseph, just running from Potiphar's wife and getting out of there as quick as possible. And I get back home and I tell my wife, and I'm like, listen, this was real difficult for me to do. I was sorely tempted to take her up on this because I'm not getting it at home.
Right.
And and she swore up until her death. She swore she never said this, but she said, "Well, if that's what you feel you need to do, you get it however you want to. Just don't bring anything home to me, as far as diseases or whatnot." So, of course, neither one of us talked to the elders about this.
Right.
But yeah, so I started hanging around with some worldly people, including worldly women, and was in a hard spot for some money, and so they had suggested, "Well, why don't you come with us? We're going to donate plasma." Because even though they don't pay you for the plasma, they compensate you for your time.
Right.
And that's a quick way to make $60, and that goes a long way when you don't have anything.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that on a fairly regular basis. Well, my wife, she found out about an affair that I was having, and she had gotten the equipment from Radio Shack and tapped the phone and had the recording and all that sort of stuff. And so I came home from work one day, and my sister and brother-in-law were down from Columbus, which was about 2.5 hours away, and they had all of my stuff packed up.
Really?
And told me that I was no longer welcome at the house. I had to go.
All right. Even though she had agreed to this.
Well,
this
yes.
set of circumstances.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
She had agreed to the set of circumstances, and so at the time, my wife and I were living at my parents' house. They were in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, wow.
Serving where the need is great.
You got thrown out of your parents' house?
I got thrown out of my parents' house.
Wow. That takes some nerve to...
Yes, they chose their daughter-in-law over their son.
Son, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
Because their daughter-in-law, she wasn't unfaithful.
Right.
According to their standards.
Right.
I would argue a different case where that's concerned.
Right.
Okay.
And could do so biblically.
So when it came time for the judicial meeting about that, she was willing to forgive me, and I was suitably repentant and humble, and we were going to work things out and everything. Oh, but Brother Harper, you have been seen going to the plasma center on a regular basis to donate plasma.
Uh-oh.
So this is a practice.
Yes.
And even though your wife, you would not be a disfellowship for the adultery. Your wife has forgiven you.
Right.
That would be a private reproof thing.
God doesn't forgive you for that whole blood thing.
But for the plasma, yes, it wasn't donating blood. It was donating plasma.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to have to disfellowship you for that practice of sin.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's when I got disfellowship.
That was your way out.
Sort of. I was depressed. Because I was homeless.
Yeah.
And staying at worldly friends' houses and trying to help out as best I could. Most of my work experience and work contacts were with brothers in the hall, so that was no longer an option for me. And but it had given me some trade experience that I could draw on.
Right.
Okay. And so it was a struggle. I went through some depression. It was really, really difficult to kind of pull myself up by my bootstraps, and I'm suddenly finding myself in the world as a member of the world, but I don't really feel worldly, and what do you do? And then I started finding out about all these worldly people who, had just met me and were willing to bend over backwards to help me.
Yeah.
This is not what I was told was like this out here.
You start realizing it's all a lie.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So I started, trying to, do things my own way and make my own way. Because I got behind on my child support payments, the state of Georgia paid for me to go to truck driver school.
Oh,
and
nice.
That was like, wow. Okay.
Whole new world.
I mean,
you're talking about perspective on the road and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I got my job as a truck driver, I've been to all 48 contiguous U.S. states. I consider myself to be a professional tourist.
Right.
They were paying me to go see the country. I never would have gotten some of those opportunities had it not been for that. So here we are, and let's see. Trying to remember what the timeline was. My brother disassociated himself.
Right.
Because he had done some investigation, found out about the NGO status that had been
right. They were in the United Nations NGO.
The United Nations NGO. He had found out that in fact it can be absolutely concretely proven that Jerusalem was not destroyed in 607. So if that was not the case, then there's no 1914, and everything else that has been built on 1914 is a lie and comes crumbling down.
Including 1919 when they feel they were chosen.
Exactly.
Right.
Everything. So when he started sharing with me the reasons that he disassociated himself, that's when I truly became awoke. Yeah.
So now you're woke.
I'm woke.
So what brought you to the Apostafest today? Like, what do you like about Apostafest? Is it? This isn't your first, so.
No, it's not my first. I was here 2 years ago when Ethan and Brandi got married in a Wiccan ceremony. What I love about the Apostafests is that most of the people who are here have shared a similar past, a similar background with us. But I love hearing about everyone's journey out of that past and where that journey has taken them, because it has taken all of us in disparate places.
Absolutely.
And as a result of how judgmental the cult was that we were in our past, I believe that we have all arrived at a point that no matter where our journey has taken us, we are able to look at fellow survivors as brothers and sisters.
Yep.
True brothers and sisters. We have weathered a storm.
Yep.
We may not have done it together, but we can come together and support each other regardless of where our journey has taken us. Just in this small group, you have Wiccans, you have Christians, you have atheists, you have don't think we have any Buddhists, although Andrea in particular, she just says
practice some Buddhist type thing.
There are some Buddhist principles in what she does with the Reiki and all that sort of stuff, but she says I don't put a label on anything.
Right.
And myself, I put a label on what I am.
Right.
Just because it seems a little bit easier. I don't have to explain as much. So
I tell people because that's how humans are.
I tell people I'm a universalist.
Gotcha. I got you. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, a little bit of everything. Yeah, and I think that's awesome. One of the things that you're basically saying is that you get to come here with different people, and it's okay for them to be who they are.
Yes, absolutely.
Isn't that amazing to finally, you can be who you are, everybody else can be who they are, and you can still be friends.
Exactly. And I'm not going to try to make you be what I am.
And how petty would it be for you to do so?
Exactly.
Right, which is exactly what witnesses do. So.
Perfect, yes.
Well, thank you very much for the interview. Appreciate
it, man. My pleasure.
Appreciate it, man.
All right.
All right, so what's your name?
Cassandra.
All right, Cassandra. So how many years were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
I was born in. Okay. I'm 22. I left when I was 21-ish mentally, but I was physically in, so.
Okay. And then when did you officially leave as far as physically?
About 7 months ago,
7 months
actually.
Ago? Okay. All right. And what was it that woke you up? What was it that kind of started that process for you?
I would say a couple things. I think one of the major things was I just didn't feel like my prayers were being answered. And then slowly from there, I just started noticing all the hypocrisy. Just things didn't add up. I started noticing that I didn't agree with the shunning arrangement that they have. My own she's been shunning me now for 3 months. I just don't think it's loving. Slowly, it's not. Slowly, I just started to develop my own thoughts and feelings and thinking for myself, really.
That's beautiful. That's what everybody needs to do.
Yeah.
What is it that you like about your new life? I mean, I know you've only been out for so long, but how does it feel to be free? What do you like about it?
I definitely noticed that there really is true happiness outside of the organization.
Yes.
Because they used to tell me all the time that people outside are worldly and they're unhappy, they're miserable, they're in debt. Like it's awful. But really, I mean, I'm noticing I'm happy. You know what I mean? I have a relationship with my boyfriend. We're doing great, and there is happiness outside of that organization. So.
Absolutely. So then, why did you come today? Why come to this Apostafest?
It was kind of a big step for me, being that I've only been out for 7 months.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's big. Congratulations.
But my friend here is here, John Willard. So he messaged me and he was actually really close friends with my father. So he came with his daughter, who I grew up with also. So I had a little bit of support that kind of brought me here. I think if I didn't have friends to kind of get me here, I might not have come, but I'm glad I'm here. So it can be intimidating to go to a place for the first time. Yeah, meeting new people.
Yeah, so let me ask you, on that note, I mean, obviously you came with John. Has it been difficult to kind of get to know new people, or do you find that kind of our stories kind of tie us together a little bit?
They definitely do. Yep, they're all very similar, but with the shunning, with just how the family goes, I think we all...
Right. Even though we may be in different places, or we may be technically strangers, we all kind of have a common background.
Yeah, everyone's been very nice here, too.
That's cool. And how long did it take you to get here?
About 3 hours, about a 3-hour drive. We stopped for breakfast, so...
Well, that makes it more fun. Is there anything that you'd like to say? If you could say anything right now, whether it be to family, to friends, about Apostafest, witnesses, whatever, is there anything you'd like to say?
To my family, I love and miss them, the ones that are shunning me. It's been very hard without them. But I understand that, now that they are under the influence, it's not them.
Right.
It's the cult thinking that's, making them want to shun me. Right. But I do still love them, and I know they love me. They just can't show it. So.
Right. And really, it's one of the things that I first learned when I was leaving was just the difference in love, and that is that, it's a very weak love if that love is only extended to a person as long as they do and say and think everything that you want them to. That's not a very strong love. It's very conditional.
Very conditional.
And I never knew that there was like this deeper, more expansive love that can cover over. I mean, I'm sure most of us here don't agree on a lot of things, but we can still be friends
and get along.
And get along and care about each other genuinely.
Yep.
So, thank you very much for answering my questions.
Yep.
I appreciate it. All right, so what's your name?
Briana Willard.
All right, Briana, how many years were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses for?
12 years.
All right, and how long have you been out?
5 years.
That is honestly, it's pretty cool because that's a long time in a short, short lifespan.
Yeah.
What was it that woke you up, or what was the reason why you didn't really go for it?
Well, my parents left. My dad disfellowshipped himself, and so did my mom. And my mom left it up to me to make the choice if I wanted to go or if I wanted to stay home with her.
Right.
And I chose to go for a little bit, but then my mom started going through a lot of problems, a lot of emotional, financial, a lot of mental problems and stuff. So I just thought it'd be better to just stay home and be with her and just forget about it.
So was there anything that kind of turned you off from wanting to, continue going as a witness?
Well, it was also just because of all the bad stuff that I was hearing about it and all the freedom that I wouldn't be able to have if I stayed for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And, yeah.
So what do you like about being free?
I can do anything I want.
Isn't it nice?
I can celebrate my own birthday. I can eat birthday cake that's mine. I can get a song sang to me. And I can get presents and Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, really, those are the things that we all missed as kids, you know, and you got a chance to at least have some of that.
Yeah, I didn't get to have my first birthday until I was 9.
Yeah.
So
that's a long time to wait for that, especially when you see your other friends at school and stuff getting stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody deserves to be celebrated, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So, is there anything that you'd like to say, just in general, about witnesses?
Don't be a Jehovah's Witness. They're all messed up. They're weird, and they're all beliefs are just all messed up. It's just all messed up.
I think that pretty well sums it up.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Gotta hit the record button twice. What's your name?
Ethan Hatcher.
All right, Ethan. So how long were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
I was 19 years, born in.
All right. And how many years have you been out?
Since 7. I got out in 2011. I was disfellowshipped at the beginning of 2012, so this is 7 years.
Nice. Isn't 7 like really great in biblical terms?
Yes.
Isn't it completion or something?
It wasn't that 10? I don't know. I
forget.
I think that was 10. I forget the numerology.
Yeah.
No. 7 was godly perfection. Because 6 was the devil. Remember, that's why it was 666. Because that was
7 was godly
perfection. The super devil, and 7 was divine.
And I think
whatever.
10 was like earthly perfection. I don't know.
7 is heaven.
There you go. So what was it that woke you up?
It was a series of things that woke me up. I was a fairly devout Jehovah's Witness. I believed the cult hook, line, and sinker. I tried to live up to their standards the best I could. I was an auxiliary pioneer for several years. I applied to be a regular pioneer for different times, which I was denied, and I found out part of the reason why I was denied was because my mother was talking to the elders behind my back. And it was her that kind of instigated the journey of my exit, because she said, "You're a spiritually dead tree." And we had fought for a number of years. This was when I was
tall.
This is when I was 17. And she was taking me to work, and she wanted to listen to Kingdom Melodies, and I didn't. I just wanted to talk or ride in silence instead of listening to that crap. And she yells at me, "You're a spiritually dead tree!" And she kicked me out of the house that day. That was when I moved into my grandparents. And
that sounds reasonable.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, you were a spiritually dead tree. I mean, can you really be in the same house?
That was after a long,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, we had our problems obviously before then. But while I was at my grandparents', I began looking into experiences of people who were disfellowshipped, and I believed that you couldn't really leave the truth by studying apostate literature. So my journey out began by studying the Watchtower. I went back and studied all their doctrines, studied all their beliefs, and tried to find, if there was some consistency, which obviously when you go back into Watchtower history, you very quickly discover there's not.
It starts to fall apart.
It starts to fall apart very quickly, and then when you read the Bible and take off the Watchtower blinders, which was my next step, I read the Bible as a novel, which is what most Christians do, and when you do it that way, you figure out why like 95% of all Christianity has some pretty main doctrinal similarities that they all share in common.
Right.
So, I'm reading the Bible and I'm like, whoa, there's no paradise earth. Even in the New World Translation, the word paradise only appears 4 times and never in the context of a paradise earth. For being a pretty friggin' pivotal teaching, you would think it would appear more often than that. But no.
So that wasn't enough for you to continue believing.
No, and I put together my packet, and that's what led to my judicial committee. I started talking about this online. I was discovered. They sent me a letter in the mail, and I presented them with a packet. And the reason why it was so successful was because it was just of Watchtower materials.
Right.
It wasn't apostate material. Right. I'm not giving them a book from Ray Franz. I'm not printing off some article from JW Facts and turning it over. These are all referenced
and your own stuff. How can you deny it?
Yeah, dutifully cited Watchtower and biblical references, and so I got those guys to talk for 4.5 hours before they said, screw you, disfellowship.
All right, so you got disfellowshipped, you're out, you're free. What do you like about your new life?
Individual autonomy. That's always been the main thing. The freedom of thought, the ability to investigate whatever it is, find out more information, and speak to others about it.
Right.
It's the free access. There's not so much control. I mean,
right. Your brain is free now.
Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses have control over every aspect of your life, and it's only when you leave that you start discovering these things, because you have these bizarre behavioral quirks that have to work out of your system,
right.
and ways of thinking and things that the JWs approached and influenced your life, and that have to then be like deprogrammed so you can just
Absolutely.
Be a normal feeling, thinking, interacting person.
Right, instead of a little drone. Okay, so like with everybody else, I've been asking them why they came. So obviously you came because this is your event. So why do you host the Apostafest?
Shortly after I left, I, of course, tried to start meeting as many apostates as I could, because your social network is demolished
right.
after you're shunned. You lose your friend and family network.
Right.
So I started meeting apostates, and it wasn't too long before I was invited to Jim Moon's barbecue. And that inspired me. I really enjoyed it. I liked the easygoing atmosphere, and I really appreciated the opportunity to meet with a bunch of other, like-minded individuals and people who had a common background. And since I'm in the Midwest and he's on the coast, I thought it probably would work out to, try and attract more centrally located apostates and some of the people that weren't able to journey as far. So that's why I initially decided to host it, and every year's been pretty fun. We've had a great turnout. It's always great to see the den of conversation, people making new friendships, making new acquaintances every year. It's fun.
All right, so there's somebody listening to this and they think this sounds awesome. Now, first of all, obviously we want to encourage them to go to one. This one in particular would be tremendous, but any of them. What if somebody wanted to start one? What would you tell them?
Think small. You don't have to be intimidated by a litany of requirements or list for people to have fun. Really, we just provide a venue for people to come hang out and make the connections, and then the Apostafest kind of builds itself as the day wears on. We try not to overcomplicate it with events and karaoke crap and stuff like that.
Right.
It's about the connections.
Right. And really that is what we're all here for,
yeah.
Because it's something that we can't just find anywhere, in our lives. So the one last question, you can say anything you want right now to whoever's listening about Jehovah's Witnesses, about being free, drop some knowledge on somebody. What would you like to say?
You can change your life by living it according to three virtues, which produce three values in turn: reason, purpose, self-esteem, that produce rationality, productiveness, and pride in your life. And if you apply that to Jehovah's Witnesses, you'll kind of take everything from there and figure it out yourself. As with many things.
Right. All right, man. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you doing this. Thanks, Steve. So, what's your name?
My name is Andrea Lynn Diaz.
All right, and how many years were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
From a very young age, probably around 3, until about 4 years ago.
Oh, wow, okay. So then you've been out 4 years. What do you like then about your new life, being kind of newly free?
The number one thing for me would be knowing that I have choice in my life. And also the gift that I've given my children, because they were raised in, but now that we've been, they're still kind of pulled that way with their father who's still involved.
Gotcha.
But with me, they're learning that there's so many more options in life.
Right.
They don't have to do what they're told. They can choose for themselves. Celebrating the holidays was huge. That's something I love. Really just the freedom, and I have a lot of gratitude, actually, for being raised in that organization, which is probably unusual, but I think that it not only shaped who I was, but it helped me to connect with people on a different level.
I wanted to go back to the holidays. What's your favorite holiday? I got to ask you.
Halloween.
Halloween?
Yeah.
All right.
Totally Halloween. I dress up every year just like the kids.
Has there been something in particular that you've gotten to do for it that you really love? Maybe a costume that you got to do, or a party, or...
It's honestly, it's trick-or-treating.
Trick-or-treating?
Yeah, I love to just, because the kids have only done it 3 times now in their life. So just I think it's more watching their joy.
Oh yeah,
and participate in
I
it.
Totally get that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Last year was the first year that so we had gone to a Halloween thing before, but last year we went to a house where they had trick-or-treaters, and it's a big street for, I mean, like 600 to 800 trick-or-treaters come down their street.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I got to hand out candy, and that was the most magical thing, just standing out there watching these kids and their costumes be proud and
Absolutely.
light up when they get candy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just awesome.
It's just fun.
Yeah, of course. So silly that we weren't ever allowed to
Right.
have
Right.
that kind of fun. So why did you come today? Why come to an Apostafest? What do you like about it?
I love coming and connecting with people and hearing everyone's story.
Yeah.
I have recently discovered that I have healing capacities, and that's something that I love to pay forward.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm here to kind of share that with the people that are interested. I think it's really important for people that have come out of the organization to realize that there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
For so many years, we were told we were these awful people and sinners, and we needed to repent and all of that. And I think it's important for people to realize that just them being here is a gift. Just them being on this earth is a gift.
Right.
They don't need to prove themselves.
Right.
They're worthy of what they want in their life. So I think that's kind of where I'm headed with my business that I started too. Is just not only people who were Jehovah's Witnesses, but people in general, just
Right.
helping people see the gift they are. And
Yeah, I mean, when you think about just statistically, the chance that that sperm and that egg made you,
Right.
I mean, that's it's astronomical. Just that in itself is a miracle. That you get to exist and have this life. So it's beautiful.
it is.
How long did you drive to get here?
It was about 3.5 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most people aren't from right here.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything you'd like to say to anybody about whether it be about Jehovah's Witnesses, going to an Apostafest, being free? Drop any nugget of wisdom you'd like to drop.
Follow your gut. When you think something feels off, listen to it. Have the... what's the word? Be willing to choose what you're being called to.
Yeah.
Like...
It takes courage to do that.
It does.
When you feel you're being led a certain way.
Right.
So
and
go for
really,
that.
really go deep and learn about yourself.
Yeah.
Learn what it is you believe and what it is you know. Because when you came in to this world, you knew things. We're all implanted with all the crap.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think people that's my number one advice, is to go back to who you really are inside.
Yeah,
and
before
do
so
that
much
soul
is
searching.
put on us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And be
agree.
patient with yourself. Be kind with yourself.
Right.
It's a process.
So what was it that woke you up?
Well, there were a lot of inconsistencies in the literature. The number one thing that really made me start questioning things was when Candace Condi's story came out in 2012.
Oh yeah, that was big.
That was huge for me. I had 2 5-year-olds, and I was like, this is not okay. I don't want my children around this environment where they think this is okay to not report this to police,
Right.
and that all this is happening. So that was like the main thing that just made me start questioning and really like exploring other things in my life. And then after I was disfellowshipped in 2014, it actually took me about a year to even get to the point where I was comfortable researching, because I was still trapped in that brainwashed paranoia of, oh my gosh, you can't research anything.
So
the apostates
strong.
are so wrong. Yeah, it's rooted in you.
Yeah.
So it took me that long, and I just started researching crisis of the conscience. That was number one.
Beautiful
That's where I
book
started.
by
Yeah.
Ray Franz, yeah.
Yeah, and just
Great.
researching my own things online and connecting with people that helped in that healing.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for sharing that with
Yeah,
me.
thank you.
All right, so what's your name?
Doug.
All right, Doug, how many years were you one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
I was baptized in 98, got out in 2006, so around 9 years.
All right. And how long have you been out?
Since 2006, so 12, 13 years now.
Oh, wow. So you get to be out longer than you were in. That's always kind of nice.
Yeah.
What was it that woke you up?
The whole cognitive dissonance that basically going to the meetings anymore, it seemed like everything they were saying up on the platform, they weren't really following that. The other thing was, it's like they would comment on Catholics doing something when they were doing the exact same thing. That was the thing that was the worst. It's like you guys are all laughing at them. It's like, but you do that too.
They're really good about talking shit about other people, aren't they?
Well, the whole sexual abuse, you know, that stuff. It's like, you know, they've always said how bad that was, and then when you get out, then you find out how bad it was. You know, it's even worse than what it was there, because they're still denying it. At least over in the Catholics now, it's like they don't. Some of them may still deny it, but the whole religion as a whole isn't.
Yeah, they're not hiding it, or they're not denying it.
They're not
denying it.
Whereas
the witnesses deny everything. Deny. So let me ask you. So you were baptized, you said, in like 98. So then you came in later in life.
Yes, I did.
So what drew you to it?
A woman.
Oh, well, hey!
A woman.
You would not be the first person.
A woman who said she wouldn't date me because I wasn't a witness. And so I started actually studying, because I had went online. At that point, there wasn't really an internet. There was AOL.
Right.
So I went on AOL, and somebody had on these forums, and they posted what witnesses like, and I'm like, and what they believed from the Bible, and it's like, well, most of that stuff, I believe that same kind of thing in the Bible.
Right.
It's like, so sure, I talked to her because I met her at work.
Right.
She came to work there. She worked there for maybe 4 or 5 months. And I asked her out, and then she said she wouldn't date anybody who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, and I didn't know anything about witnesses at all.
Right.
So I got online, and I looked up this stuff on the Bible, and it's like, well, I never really went to church before, but those things, I had watched movies and things like that. It was pretty much in line with what I believed, so I was like...
That seemed like normal Christianity.
She goes, well, I can have an elder contact you, and so one day, one did. So I started studying, and then went to, and then the first year that I went to the convention, I knew she was going there that same week. Well, it turned, but she had said, she wouldn't date me and all this because I wasn't a witness and all that. She knew I was studying. Well, it turned out when I got there, like a week and a half before the convention, she married somebody who wasn't a witness.
Oh, crap. Seriously?
I emotionally, growing up, I was a very, very, very shy man. I spent that afternoon, because it was I didn't see her until like Sunday.
Oh,
and on the last day, and I find out, I see her and him walking together, and that's when she told me, she goes, well, I wrote you a letter, and which was at home when I got home. So I didn't,
that's terrible, man.
Well, yeah, you find out there, and then I'm just like crying in the.
Well, yeah, man.
Crying throughout the whole thing, that, it's like the guy I was studying with, he, I had kind of told him what was going on, and they just kind of let me, everybody kind of came by and it just kind of
patted me on
the shoulder, and it's like, well, but for them, it was kind of like, well, now he's going to show us whether he's in this for. Because I'm still studying, I haven't gotten baptized yet.
Right. Let's see how really in he is.
So then, I kind of fiddled around for a couple more years, and another guy was getting baptized, and he kind of gave me a little peer pressure, and so I went ahead and got baptized.
Yeah. Especially, when you got friends or whatever doing it.
But even it's like when I go out in field service, I was always hoping nobody would answer the door.
We all were.
Yeah.
We all were. And secretly.
And I'd fudge the number, as that, just enough so I could carry the microphones and.
Oh yeah, look the part and be accepted, because everybody wants to fit in, right?
Yeah. And well, and they were, you could tell they were trying to groom me because.
Yes.
Because
you're
number
a brother.
One, well, they were showing me off because I was a college grad.
Oh yeah.
Who was in the tech world and all this, so. I was being what I didn't realize is that the guy I was studying with, he was an elder. He was the watchtower conductor for several years. And he would take me to these congregations, when he gives talks. Well, at the time I was thinking, well, he's just doing it to, so that I can get to know him. No, it was like they were showing me off.
Oh, man.
That's really what it was.
Yeah, because they don't have many people who get
They don't have that many, so they say that I was a outlier, and so I was one of the ones they were pointing to is that, look, we're getting...
Right, it's like, they're like, the Watchtower has doctors and lawyers. Yeah, they were doctors and lawyers before they were ever witnesses. And then they converted. And that's
then
all
they converted. But then somebody like that, the fact that, you didn't grow up in it, it's like, well, that's even more, that's to them, well, this is really the truth.
Yeah, right, because you were drawn to it as an adult.
You were drawn to it, so it's like they were trying to, I was being groomed for that, and it's just like, it got to the point about 5 years in where it's just like, things just weren't making sense, and I just was... And so finally, I just stopped going, and
well, I'm glad it was at least a quick stint for you.
And I didn't have any family in, so it wasn't like I didn't have any. And if anything, it's like me getting out helped the family situation because my mom, she said she cried when she heard that I was getting baptized because she grew up that the witnesses actually came every Sunday morning. This would have been back in the 40s. Yeah, this would have been back in the 40s, 50s time frame. They would come and try to stop them from going to church.
Oh, wow.
So she said she remembers...
I heard they were more aggressive.
She remembers her dad coming out with having to take a shotgun out there to threaten them to leave the property so they could go to church.
Good Lord.
So that's that. So that is my mom's background with them. That they're a cult. There's no... But for me, it's like I'm willing to give anybody the benefit of the doubt of what it was. It's like, no, they're not really a cult. Right. And then it's like, then the more you learn that, okay, well, all these things say this, but really this is, it's like...
Right.
It's a cult. As long as you don't watch what the left hand is doing, you're only watching the right hand, you're okay.
So we'll just all agree. It's a cult.
We all agree. It's a cult.
All right, so you've been out now for a little while. What do you like about your new free life?
Just the fact, even when I was in, I still did everything. They weren't watching. There was nobody to watch over my shoulder, so I was doing pretty much whatever I wanted to do anyway.
Right.
If they'd have known, I probably would have been in the back room. And, but it's just the fact that, and actually for the first couple years, I didn't really feel free because I didn't want to see them out in public. I didn't want to have to explain to them what was going on.
It's like you owe them something.
Well,
you feel that
actually, for what it was for me was like until I actually got it all figured out in my head.
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody else because I wasn't sure that it wasn't real and all that stuff. So until I got it figured out, I didn't want to bring anybody else down my road.
Right.
So I basically, made myself scarce.
Keep your distance.
When somebody knocked on Saturday morning, I didn't go to the door. Or if I did, a couple times they came when I was actually getting ready to leave. So they said, well, we know you're depressed, which I never told them I was depressed, but I guess.
Well, if you're not in meetings, you're depressed.
They figured you were depressed.
That's the only reason not to go.
You need to come back. Everybody loves you, and it's like, there were some good friends there, but it's like. But the other thing was friends, they weren't really friends.
No,
there was somebody I could talk to.
Right.
But it's not like this. It's like it's kind of like John. But
All right. So what brought you to Apostafest today? What do you like about Apostafest?
It's just to be able to talk about
John.
All the boobs.
About John. All the boobs.
All the boobs.
The booze. The women.
Don't forget about the beheading.
Yeah, the beheadings.
The beheadings for the birthdays.
But no, I came to the first one and I can be rather shy until I get to know a lot of the people. It's
I understand.
Now we can't get them back in.
So I came to the first one and it's like, hey, everybody's here really good, and it was something to get out and do with, people common experience of
absolutely.
What it was. Even though my experience, most people were born in and have it much more ingrained into them.
Right.
So it's like I don't have those kind of stories to tell.
Right.
So
it was all I
still have a story to tell.
Right.
That was the thing, and so it's like I've just kept coming each year, and each year a great group of people, and got to meet you too.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I've met a lot of nice people here. So, all right, so you can say one thing, anything you want right now. You can drop knowledge on somebody. You can warn people about Jehovah's Witnesses. You can encourage them to go to an Apostafest in their area. What you got for anybody?
Is if you think something is wrong in your head, listen to that.
Yeah.
Don't just say that, don't let somebody else, and don't tell yourself that, oh, well, I'll eventually figure it out.
Yeah.
You got to look into it and figure it out now, because you get too far down the road and it's not only going to be damaging to you, it can be damaging to your whole family.
Yeah.
You could bring other people in, and then you're going to feel really bad at that point.
Absolutely.
So if you have, no matter what you get into, if you have that if you got a spidey sense that tells you something's wrong, figure out what that wrong is.
Yeah.
Don't just say that I'll figure it out eventually. You need to sit down and say, well, I either need to stop doing this,
right,
or
figure it out.
Just figure it out.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you doing this.
You're welcome.
Thank you, man. All right, so I have here, what's your name?
Diane Stone Purdy.
All right. And
Mary Schreiber.
Mary Schreiber. All right. How many years were you a witness, Diane?
I was a witness for about 12 years. I was baptized at the age of at 18. I was baptized in 1972.
All right. And Mary, how long were you a witness?
Probably close to 20, close to that. 16.
About 16 years?
16 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So then how long have you been out? I mean, it sounds like...
I've been out a little over 30 years.
30 years? And what about you, Mary?
Oh, gosh, for a long, long time.
I think you said earlier, like
20 years
or so.
But you were never baptized. I mean, you were never disfellowshipped.
No, it's never disfellowship, but I've been out of it. Let me think about this. I came in when I was 19, and I probably was done with it by the time I was 36, 37 years old. Yeah, I was done with it by the time I was 35, 36, actually.
Gotcha. So that means you've been out 20 years.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So then what was it, Diane, that woke you up?
What woke me up was, actually, I can't say that I was totally asleep, but I was brainwashed.
Right.
My husband at the time was pretty much the one that kept me in, because I was constantly questioning. That doesn't make sense, or this isn't the Jesus that I learned to worship as a child, things like that.
Right.
But what finally, there were things that happened throughout the years, clashes with elders and such, but the one thing that finally got me out for good was leg warmers. Believe it or not.
Leg warmers?
Leg warmers,
really?
Yep. I never wore them. This was back in the 80s.
Were they scandalous?
They weren't. There was an elder who had his own opinions, as many of them do. He's at the podium saying that wearing leg warmers is unbecoming to a Christian woman. They shouldn't wear them out in field service. I'm thinking, I don't wear them. That doesn't apply to me. So I grab the kids and take my usual trek to the ladies' room, because that's how to get out of the meetings, And I'm back there, and this one sister is going, woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, I'm crying. She was an emotional mess.
Right.
She was a pioneer. And she's like, I can't wear my leg warmers. And I looked at her and I said, Marilyn, I've learned something over the years. I said, if it's in the Bible, that's fine. But if it's not in the Bible, I've learned if it goes in one ear and out the other. And I said it just like that.
And isn't it really how it's supposed to be,
Yeah, I just let it go in one ear and out the other.
Right.
But at the time, I didn't realize that there was an elder's wife standing there, because I was more focused on her. Well, next thing I know, I get a call, or should I say my husband gets a call, because it's not appropriate to communicate with the wife. Tells me I have a judicial committee formed. So I said, okay, that's fine. I didn't do anything wrong. But meanwhile, my husband and another elder friend are teaching me what I need to say and not to say in this meeting. I mean, now right away, that doesn't really ring true to me.
That shows
really doesn't.
what it is. Right.
And I kept thinking, the only thing that's wrong with me is I'm just not patient. So I have my little scripture ready about being patient and waiting on Jehovah. So I'm sitting here, and they said, don't argue with them. Just let it go through and act like you're sorry. And I'm thinking, I didn't do anything. But anyhow, I'm sitting here, and the guy I offended happens to be the head honcho in this judicial committee. He's the ringleader, which was actually a conflict of interest.
Right.
But he was offended, insulted that I would dare question him, a lowly woman in a congregation. So he's saying all these things, and it gets to a certain point that he said he goes on, and I've kept my mouth quiet the whole time based on what my husband and this other elder had told me to do. And I said, but before we end, I would like to share a scripture about being patient. And he put his finger on my nose and said, when you become a man, when you become an elder, maybe then I'll listen to what you have to say. Oh, was I mad. Well, that's where it ended. About a week or two later, we were with friends at in a hot tub at not a resort, but a campground or something.
Right.
And the girl she was a so-called friend, but she really wasn't. But she brought up the subject of this elder, and I said, I will not bow down to that Buddha. And needless to say, she wasn't truly a friend.
No, I can understand where that
went. She
went.
went and reported me.
She did.
And I mean, this is the same sister who used to make Easter baskets for her kids. But I would never, and I've never reported another witness.
Right,
I might say, I think they have,
hypocritical.
I might say they've got a problem, and I tell my husband, but that's where it ends. But she went and reported me again, and I'm really angry because these things have happened throughout the years, but you just kind of let it go and say it's Jehovah's organization, you got to wait on Jehovah and all that. But anyhow, they called back and said, you need to come back in. And he came out and told me. I was out in the yard, my husband. I said, just tell him to kiss my rear end. I used another word. I was so angry. And he went back in. And they said, they're going to have to disfellowship you. I said, fine. And my oldest son was 12 years old then. He's 44 now. He's the only one who's still in. So, it's been an interesting life, but a good one. But that's pretty much my story. Leg warmers of all things.
Leg warmers. I love it. All right, so Mary, what woke you up?
Well,
and now you have a lot to live up to.
Well, it kind of ties into me.
Oh, really?
Because we're best friends.
Cool. Diane had gotten unjustly disfellowshipped.
Right.
Okay. So, that was my first lesson, that they could disfellowship you over such foolish little things.
Yeah, that's very petty.
Yeah, and then I had my own experiences with my little boots and my little bobby socks, my long skirts, kind of like the prairie look,
Yeah.
And I had sisters telling me that I needed to wear hose, and that didn't go over well with me.
They pick on the smallest things.
They
don't
do.
Yes, it's amazing.
And then they were picking at me because I was working on, a lot, because I had 5 children. Even though my husband had a decent job, he really did. But, 5 kids is a lot.
Yeah, takes money.
Right. And so they were picking on me about that. They were always saying, hey, you need to be out in service. You shouldn't be working, blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? To me, you're supposed to take care of your family and then serve others. That is clearly in the Bible.
Right.
So I really just got fed up with it and more or less just ended up leaving.
Yeah, just walked away.
Yes, and but they also didn't like it because I put my children in sports. They didn't like it because a couple of my boys were in the Boy Scouts, and later on, of course, they would have really had a fit if I'd stayed in there. My daughter was in cheerleading. They didn't believe in those kind of things, and children need those things.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so I saw, a lot of wrongdoing. And then one time I was talking to an elder about, a case about a woman being raped, and he said, well, that's not a crime. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. And I have never forgotten that in my whole entire life.
Wow.
And then when I had an accident once on my way to the Kingdom Hall, they didn't bother to even care to stop to see if I was okay or not. So that did it. I didn't go back to the Kingdom Hall.
Not a lot of love there, is there?
No. And that was the thing. Yeah. That Jesus said, you'll know my people by the love among them.
Right.
I really didn't see any love in that congregation in Mount Vernon whatsoever.
No.
So I left. But the witnesses come through to my doors throughout the years. And when we moved to Columbus, and then we moved back up here up to the Mount Vernon area. And when we did, there was this brother, McCord. He came to the door. And, I told him, if you want to have a Bible discussion, I'll have one, because I'm thinking to myself, I can, prove them wrong, but in a polite way, okay? Well, him and I had a good rapport, but then the elders didn't like that. So they gave me a call. They had the nerve to call me and asked me to meet with them. I said, I don't need to meet with you. I owe you nothing. Well, that was the end of that. So I don't know if they felt, to disfellowship me or not.
It doesn't matter, does
it doesn't matter,
no.
But as far as I'm concerned, they had nothing on me to disfellowship me for, but I really don't care.
Yeah. No,
but then recently, I had this really nice guy come to my door. He's a witness. We had, some good conversation. He's come back a couple times, but the last time or two I wasn't there because I was in Arizona.
Sure.
But I told him, I warned him, I said, if you go back and tell the elders who I am, I guarantee you they'll stop you from coming to my door.
Of course they will.
Unless you can stand up on your own.
They don't want
I won't see you again.
And you don't. You haven't
and
seen
I
him.
haven't seen him.
Of course. All right, so
my story.
Oh, that's awesome. So, okay, so you're both awake now.
Oh, totally.
So, Diane, what do you like about your life after waking up?
I like not having to get up in the morning and go out in field service. That's always a big one.
Yeah.
I like the fact that my children are able to take care of themselves financially. They're college educated. They, even the oldest who went back and who shuns me, I did push him to get a college degree before I was finally shunned by him. So I know even he takes care of himself. And I think that's a good feeling to know that I've done my job as a parent.
Yeah,
that they're able to fly. I'm the mother. I push them out of the nest. They can take care of themselves. I think that's what I like the best.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You did your job, and
That's
whatever
right.
they do, that's up to them.
That's exactly right.
All right, Mary, so what about you? What do you like about being free?
I like freedom. The right that I can choose how I worship the higher powers.
Yeah.
I like the freedom that I can vote now, and they used to tell you if you left the truth, your life would be horrible.
Oh, such a lie.
Yeah, and you know what? My life could never have been better.
Awesome.
Once I left them, I felt like the chains came off.
I love that.
And my children have been much, much happier since I, quit going to the hall.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So why'd you come today, Diane? What drew you to Apostafest?
Well, I don't know. I'm very secure in where I am in life. I don't really have PTSD or anything like that. I miss my son, but he's 44 years old. But you know what? He's living his life. He's doing fine.
Right.
But I still stay out there on Facebook to, post pictures of the grandchildren, my dogs, but I mostly want to make myself visible out there because my name's Diane Stone Purdy. My name is Diane Purdy, but my witness name was Stone. That was my first name, husband's name. So I want to be visible in that regard if people are looking for me later on.
Yeah.
But the reason I came today is I know a lot of these people online, especially Ethan and Brandi, and I really admire them and some of the other folks. So it's been really wonderful to put the faces with the people that we know so well. I feel like we've made a bond today, a final bond.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what about you, Mary? Why'd you come today?
Well, I been watching this show called Extreme Cultism.
Right.
And I see how very similar they all are. And I feel like everybody had a story to tell. And so I thought it'd be awesome to come and hear what people had to say.
Yeah.
And, I've been fine because I've been out of it for so many years.
Right.
And I just feel a sense of freedom. But it's just great to get back together to get together with people who, have left the truth. And the thing I see is love among them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we did not see that in the congregation whatsoever, but here you could feel it.
Yeah.
You could be yourself here. That's
you can just be yourself.
Yes,
and
everybody seems to be happy.
Yeah, and we don't have to agree about everything.
Right.
We all can have our own lives.
Right.
Some are atheists, some are Christians, some are whatever.
Right.
But you can still love that person, and you can still care for that person.
I've asked a lot of questions, but it's because I'm curious, and nobody got angry with me.
Right.
That doesn't happen in the Kingdom Hall.
Right. And I thought it was great fun. I mean, why not come with Diane? Because that's where it started anyhow.
That's awesome. I think that's beautiful that you all can continue that like that.
And Ethan is really great. He really is a remarkable man.
So, all right, Diane, you got a chance here to say anything you want. It can be about the witnesses. You can drop some knowledge, some wisdom. You can say whatever you want. What would you say to somebody who's listening?
I would say I used to believe it was the truth, too.
Yeah, we all did, didn't we?
That's it.
Yeah, we're not alone. We're not alone. What about you, Mary?
I would say don't let the paradise story suck you in.
Yeah.
And don't believe that your life is going to be horrible outside the organization. And don't have the fear you're going to be destroyed.
Yeah, that's what we all need to, when you can let go of that stuff, which isn't always easy to do.
Right.
It's some of us are more brainwashed than others.
Yes.
Depending on if you grew up in it or what the circumstances were, who your parents were has a big effect on it too. If they're super, if they're Uber dubs, if they're Uber witnesses. So I really appreciate you all answering the questions.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I would say everybody should listen to their own gut feelings because most people do have that gut feeling inside. I really believe that it's that is not the truth. The witnesses are not.
In fact, you're echoing what other people have said today. When you start to feel that, explore it. Don't say, "Oh, I'll look at that later" or whatever. You're not going. Look at it now, or just stop everything. Get some distance from it and then look at it.
Absolutely.
And then you can do so with a clear mind. So.
And do not shun your fellow witnesses that get disfellowshipped. I know I didn't, and I hope other people won't either.
Yes, after I was disfellowshipped, Mary was the only witness that stayed my friend. And she was not disfellowshipped. She was in good standing, and we were buds. We've been buds for years.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to end it there because that's perfect.
So I want to thank everybody that participated by being vulnerable and allowing themselves to be interviewed. There wasn't a lot of notice for everyone there. Not everybody knew that I was intending to even ask. I also wasn't able to get to everybody. My apologies to those who I missed. There were some that left before I even got a chance to meet them because I was busy doing this. And hopefully I'll get to meet them next year at the Apostafest 2019. So I just wanted to thank everybody for doing so. I hope that this has given some insight into what an Apostafest might be. It's not a scary event. It can be intimidating, as in any social situation, to walk up to a group of strangers. My wife and I had to do that last year when we went for the first time because we didn't know anybody there. But the reality is that no matter how much you know them as individuals, we all know something about the people there. We all have a shared past. The stories of how we got out might be different. The scars look surprisingly the same at times. And it's not something that you can just get anywhere when you go to associate with other people. But regardless of our individual stories, we're all one family. We've all lost our own flesh and blood families for the most part, or many of us have, are the people that we knew as friends in the past. But we can go to events like this and really, like Ethan said, you don't have to, if you want to organize such an event yourself, don't overcomplicate it. I don't know about you, but I remember the old, pitch-ins that we'd have at the Kingdom Halls sometimes. And really, that's all you need. We're all people looking for connection. It's about connections with others. It's not necessarily about entertainment. We can all be entertained anytime, anywhere, but it's a beautiful thing to once a year or more often, if you're fortunate enough to be able to travel, to get to some of these Apostafests, to meet people that have stories similar to yours, to know that you're not alone, and really just to encourage one another as free people, people on the outside. It is encouraging when you meet maybe some who are a little bit older, more seasoned, let's call it, who've been free longer, to see their happiness, see how their lives have transpired over the years, and to hopefully get some inspiration. So I hope if you're hearing this that you'll attend if one comes open in your area, or that you'll be willing to travel. As you noticed, most of the people there had traveled at least somewhat to be there. My wife and I, it was roughly around 2 hours, 2.5 with traffic. So this is a doable thing for a lot of people, and I really hope that people will take advantage of these opportunities. Feel free to go to shunnedpodcast.com and leave a comment for anyone there, or just the Apostafest at large, on the episodes page for this episode. You can also follow the show on YouTube at my channel called Shunned Podcast. That's one word. And you can get my personal videos there as well as, or as vidcasts. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter at Shunned Podcast. And my wife Jenny handles those channels for the show. You can also help the show by leaving a review on iTunes. That really means a lot to me personally. You're also helping to promote the show by doing so. It rises in the rankings, and maybe somebody else finds the help that they need. You can also support the show financially at patreon.com/shunned for as little as $1 a month. I use those funds, I put them right back into the show and create transcripts and pay for hosting and things like that, so that other people can find this as well. You can also hear my personal story at the podcast called This JW Life. You can find that at thisjwlife.com. You can also find it on YouTube now under a channel called This JW Life. And it is surprisingly not one word. Our theme music is by Fair Voyeur, who is also a former witness, and the song is entitled No Hell Yet. So, as always, I just want to end this on a positive note. Love others, do no harm, and go be happy.